It's a real treat for me today to have Bobby Lieb in the studio here with us. Bobby is a top lister, if not the top lister in the company. He always has been. He's one of 3 HomeSmart Hall of Fame members. It's a treat for me to have you here today, Bobby.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for joining.
You bet.
All right, so we have a lot of ground to cover here in 1 hour. So I got to go through some housekeeping stuff here at the beginning, or some instructional stuff, so I'll go through it real quick. But the goal of today is we want you all to become listing machines and grow your business in 2019, and that's what I think of Bobby. He's a listing machine, and he's going to share his insights with you. We'll get going on that. But if you haven't yet gone to homesmart.com/winning-listings to register, please do. That way you can get all the follow-up material. If you happen to be on the webinar but you haven't registered, just go there, enter your first name, last name, your email address. Then they'll get you all signed up, and they'll get you entered to win as well. We're going to do 2 drawings here in just a minute. Participants, I call these Millionaire Mondays. If you take some time on these Mondays and you stop and you work on your business 4 weeks in a row, trust me, it'll push your business. So I want you right now to schedule the next 2 webinars as well, February 11th and February 18th. Put them in your calendar under Millionaire Mondays, Winning Listings webinar, and make sure you come back. Now, last week, thank you to Jeannie and Sharif from Oregon. You guys did a great job. We got such good feedback from all of the agents who participated. Jeannie and Sharif shared with us what they do to win listings, both of them top listers up in the Oregon area. The unique thing about them is both of them were in the business 3 to 5 years, so just showing how quickly you can ramp up as a listing agent. Today, Bobby's been in the business a little bit longer. Bobby has really built a solid listing business. We're going to go through all of his points in a minute. Then we have 2 more weeks, and in the weeks 3 and 4, what we're going to do is I've videotaped multiple top agents on specific key topics. I've had a lot of requests for resources and how-to. Now, where do you go to get those database information? Where do you go to get those names and contact numbers? How do you do this? How do you download the listing presentation, etc.? So week 3 and 4 is going to be a combination. It's not going to be just an interview with 1 or 2 agents. It's going to be an interview with multiple agents, some of them videos on specific topics, and a lot of resources and how-tos. The 4 weeks then will take us right into our National Growth Summit, the last week of February. So if you have not yet registered for the No Limits HomeSmart International Inaugural Growth Summit, please do. We'll see you then at the end of February at that event. Now, the whole purpose of doing this, I hope you have pen and paper or notes that you can take a notepad and type in your notes, because it's all about getting results. And Bobby's going to share some very specific action items about what's worked for him. And then what we want you to do is we want you to give us some feedback. Go onto the Facebook groups, the national Facebook groups, send us some posts. Say, I love this idea, I hated that idea, this really worked for me, and even check back in a week or 2, and Bobby, I'll let you talk in a minute.
That's right. Okay.
But anyway, in a week or 2, let us know, hey, I tried that a week ago, and it really did work. So give us some feedback on social media. All right, before we get to Bobby.
I hope they don't say they hate anything that I do, though.
No, they never will.
Okay.
No one would ever say that. All right, so last week's winner, though, we did have a winner last week for a lighted yard sign. It's Bianca up at, she's in HomeSmart Evergreen in LA. Bianca, be looking for a phone call from us. Bianca Garibay, HomeSmart Evergreen in LA. She won a lighted sign last week. We're also going to give away another lighted sign at the end of this after Bobby talks. So you guys ready for week 2? I'm done talking already. It's time to get to Bobby. I'm going to set Bobby up a little bit, though. Last week, we talked about 4 key parts of winning listings, like brand building, planting seeds with buyers and building a business that way, and then prospecting, lead gen, and engagement, and then obviously the presentation itself. But Bobby prepared something really special for all of you. He sent over what he has, the 16 secrets of being a successful listing agent. And I want to tell you just a little bit about Bobby. I put your photograph there anyway, even though you're here.
It's a little
today.
bit younger picture. I like it.
Bobby has been #1 agent in HomeSmart nationwide for 7 years in a row. He one of 3 members in the HomeSmart Hall of Fame. Maybe future years too, #1. In the whole company. Awards are coming up, so we'll see. But he is a member of the HomeSmart Hall of Fame, which means he has done a whole lot of transactions and a lot of listings. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about Bobby. You correct me anything if I'm wrong.
I wouldn't dare correct you.
Okay.
As long as it's good.
Okay. All right. So Bobby started in real estate while he was running his father's nightclub in Phoenix. It was a nightclub that everybody in town went to, so successful. But at one point, he realized that he wanted to do something a little bit different, and he started to do real estate part-time. He had his first open house, I think, and he realized maybe at that time that he didn't want to do it part-time.
I also fell asleep during my open house.
I wasn't going to say that.
That's all right.
But at that point, you jumped in then at that point.
I did.
Both feet at that point and said, this can't be a part-time thing.
Absolutely.
Right? And then he got serious. He found a mentor. He worked for how many years under a mentor? 5 years?
5.5 years.
5.5 years
Yep.
under a mentor as a co-lister. Buyers and sellers. But he rose quickly to HomeSmart, #1 nationwide after he joined HomeSmart. First HomeSmart Hall of Fame member. He's a single agent, one assistant, doing a tremendous amount of business. And even while we're here getting prepped, he's taking care of clients, taking calls, texts, phone calls. He works hard. He deserves to be here today, and you all have a treat. You're going to learn a lot from him. He is the leader of the HomeSmart Elite Group in Phoenix, the founding member. You started the HomeSmart Elite Groups.
We did.
Thank you for that, and thank you
great.
for all your service, everything you've always done for HomeSmart. One thing I love about Bobby is Bobby shares. Bobby collaborates with so many agents, and you can reach out to him, you can call him, you can email him, and believe me, Bobby will call you back. He's one of the few agents that will do that.
Or I'll answer the call.
Or you'll answer the call. That's
right.
how
I answer my
unique.
phone. I
How
answer my
unique.
phone all the
Bobby
time, yeah.
answers his phone all the time. Now, last year, Bobby did about 135 listings, right?
Correct.
And did more transactions than that, but 135 listings in a year. Now, I asked him, I said, how many is the most you've ever done in a year? And he said somewhere around 150, 160. He says he has to go back and look. For some reason, I could swear once that you were 180 plus.
It could be. You and I did a class together for a long time.
I know,
so it
we
could
did. And but the interesting thing, and this is what I want you to all know, is that January 1st every year, Bobby restarts at 0, just like every one of you. And you talk about that in your marketing classes, right?
Yep.
Talk to the agents about it. Like, what does New Year's Day mean to you?
You know, it's funny because I no matter how long I've been in the business, and I've been in the business for about 27 years, I love, all the way till December 31st, and I have my stats, and everything, but all of a sudden, 0 on New Year's Day. So while everybody is recovering from their hangovers and my wife was sleeping, I'm actually emailing all my sellers, because I typically have about 35 listings at one time. I'm actually emailing all my sellers saying it's time to reduce, and then I'm also going through previous listing appointments that I had, emailing them saying, hey, don't forget me, can we get on? So it bothers me, and I would tell you, honestly, it bothers me for about 30 days until I get back, because I'm just always trying to figure out a way to recreate what I did, and you can't stay on your laurels from the previous years.
Right.
And so I'm just like, what can I do this year? I start thinking about different marketing campaigns that I do, but I'm cranking on at 4 o'clock in the morning on New Year's Day.
I know you are, and I guess that's why I wanted to start here, because this mindset. I mean, I've seen it from a little bit of a distance. Being the working in marketing and then the chief industry officer, and I see so many agents that want to be you, that want to learn from you, or be like you. And then I also see other agents that are like, that's Bobby. He's been doing it forever, and I can, like, it just seems sometimes a little unattainable. And you try to remind all of them in your marketing classes that every year you're all equal.
Right.
Every year, January 1st, everyone is at 0. And at any one year, you can be toppled. That fear drives you too.
It's a big fear. I hate to lose. I really hate to lose. I played college baseball. I've always hated to lose from coaching my kids in t-ball, but especially now this is what I do, and I don't want some young buck kicking my butt. I'm still got a little more years left in me, and that's the drive I have. I don't want to be toppled, so I figure out different ways to stay on top.
Right, so the message to all of you is, if you have that mindset, and here it is, it's just the 1st of February, you've got 11 months ahead, and everybody is all really at the same level 4 weeks into the year. So if you put the pedal down, you can do it. And you would agree?
I would agree.
Agents can do it.
Yep.
All right, now real quick, I want to talk about the challenge before we get into Bobby's 16 things. When you have someone who's built as solid of a business, been in the business 27 years, sometimes there's that challenge when you have, you're doing a business builder like this. We want agents to take things away today and apply them to their business. Now, some things are quick and fast, get results right away. Some things are more long-term. I had someone challenge me and they're like, we need to have a little bit of a mix when we're doing these webinars. And I said, that's why last week we had agents that had been in business 3 to 5 years that did a tremendous amount of business very quickly. Bobby's going to talk about what he did in his first 5 years, how he built tremendous business very quickly. But also he's built a very solid business that now is stable because he's done consistent things over the years, and these are the 16 things. So as you talk today, I know when we were prepping, we were talking about we're going to try to highlight some of the quick and fast things you can do right away, and then also highlight those longer term things because you really need to do both. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And when I first started off, again, coming from a nightclub business, which really had no real estate solid background to it, I had a basis of some people that were members of the club, but I always hear people, even when I do a class every couple of months on marketing and also agency law, so if anybody wants to come down, you're welcome to take my class. Next one's the 18th this month. But it's funny that what I find is that the whole scenario, people go, nobody knows who I am. Well, you've got to let them know. You've got to. So when I first started off, I did a personal newsletter to X amount of people. If I met somebody in a store, I put them in my newsletter, and at least to let people know who I was and what I was doing. Some of them already knew what I was doing, but not really, they didn't know career. Right. And it's got to be personalized. And I'd talk about, the neighborhood. I'd talk about my family. Maybe they didn't care, but it was just to be personal. Other than those, sometimes, and I don't want to knock the insurance industry, but some of those, they have the same newsletter that goes out in Kansas City as it does in Phoenix. It had to be personal, and in that, sometimes local, and sometimes I'd put even, we'll get into a little bit, a sports magnet in there, just something to let them know. And then but I would do it every month. Every month I'd send this letter out over and over again. Sometimes people would say, please take me off your list. But a majority of them go, hey, we appreciate it. And then you just keep adding to that until you start getting your signs in the neighborhood. But that was a short-term fixer for me.
But you had to invest. I mean, at one point, 2 months ahead before, you were at the nightclub.
Correct.
And now you're talking to somebody at the nightclub and, hey, I'm the right agent to help you sell your home.
Exactly.
And you had to bridge that gap, and you had to work for it.
Absolutely.
And so,
that's where the mentor helped, because I was a nightclub slug, and we'll get into the mentorship in a little bit, but I know all these people, but I didn't have credibility, and that's where I want people to know you've got to have somebody as a mentor or a partner that has a credibility that I was lacking until I got that 4 or 5 years.
So here, let's do your 16 things. And we're starting with number 1, get a mentor, and number 2, keep a positive attitude. We'll go through the rest of them. But talk about those first 3 months into the business. Like, what did you do?
Well, the first thing I want people to know is that when they go to real estate school prepares you to get your license. It doesn't prepare you for the real world. They are there to get you licensed. And for me, I needed somebody who was he actually was the #1 realtor in the Valley, but also he was the first guy to do a team concept. So I learned from him. We would go on listing appointments, and it was really hard for me because I wasn't allowed to talk, for the first hour. But we got the listing because of him. But it was my client, which we never would have gotten a listing. And as soon as we got the listing, he went bye-bye for 4 or 5, 6 weeks, however long it took me to sell the house. He was always there for payday, but it made me learn but I got the listing, and that's the biggest key, and he was predominantly a listing agent, is getting signs, having the credibility. Now all of a sudden I got listing, and now I'm sending out more letters to my sphere saying, I now have a listing in your area. So that, to me, the mentorship is, I see too many times, whether you've been in the business for 100 years or a brand new agent, these brand new agents think, well, I know all about everything about real estate. You don't. And that's where I see people fail more. Get a mentor. It is probably the most important thing, I would say, in the first few years.
Yep, get a mentor, learn, absorb their knowledge.
Absolutely. Soak it up. Soak it up.
So when he was talking, though, you were memorizing,
I
listening?
I knew all his jokes by the end of the 5 years, but it was amazing. Again, I just felt like he mentored me. Plus, we had another guy in our group that was a great mentor.
Right.
And I just between the two of them, I'd go on all their presentations. I would call them up all the time. Even today, 27 years later, I'm still calling one of the guys, hey, I need help here. And that's why I totally believe helping other agents know how long they've been in business, because people are always there to help me with questions. And you never know all the answers. It's
No,
impossible.
you don't, and that's why you still talk about, you still go to classes.
I teach them.
You still
yeah.
teach classes.
And I don't get credit for my own
And-
classes, which sort of sucks. But no, I do go to classes. You have to.
Right.
And it's just amazing. If you go with the attitude that you know it all after 27 years, you're making a big mistake. I go there. We have a great instructor that used to own the school out here that teaches us, and it also kind of helps going to the classes that I do. I've learned from him. But absolutely, you have to keep going, because things change. There's so many different rules every week, every day, every year. They're changing that we don't know unless we get learn from somebody else.
All right, so there's somebody out there watching today, they're 3 years in the business, but they're not where they want to be. Still a good idea for them to maybe get a mentor, get involved with somebody, co-list, et cetera, right?
Yeah, and the other thing I tell people, there's not a lot of loyalty in our industry. I know when my kids went to a particular school, I was a star realtor for 3 or 4 years while my kids were going there, and I thought that I'll be able to work with them for the rest of. No, as soon as you leave that school, another star realtor comes in. So there's not lower. But the other thing I tell people, as surprising as it is, even with their family, I find, and I deal with a lot of as parents are getting older and even passing away. There's maybe one realtor in the family, and that realtor assumes that they're going to get that listing. But what they have to understand is now you got 3 siblings who now have 3 spouses maybe. You get greed that comes in, and they're going to go, well, we like Bobby, maybe they like Bobby, but Bobby doesn't have any experience. So what I tell people, get a co-lister who is experienced in the area that home is being sold. Now they have to hire you.
Right.
I may not be the brand new agent, I may not have any knowledge, but now I'm bringing in you who've been doing it for 20 years. They can't say no, and guess what? You and I together, because of you, I get the listing, but because of me, you get the listing.
Right.
We co-list, we get 50% of a deal, and which is a good basis to start your marketing. Now you have a sale, and you don't walk away with 0 because you haven't had experience. So people are afraid to co-list, or their egos get in the way. And I just think it's so important.
But see, and that's the thing that I've learned from you is you set that foundation. I've often seen even people who are working with a mentor or co-listing with someone, they leave too early too, and they kind of at some point, and you. By the time you left, you had a testimonial sheet that was that long, and you had
I paid my dues.
And you paid your dues, and you maybe gave up some commissions. But I think what I've heard you say, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but those commissions came back though because you had such a solid foundation.
First of all, I would never correct you because this is your show here. So, but yeah, I would tell you, if you're going to make this a long-term business, I started when I was 30,
right?
And I plan on staying as long as I know what I'm doing and competent. It's a long-term business. So what's 5 years? Right. Even though it sounds like a lot, it's not. When now all of a sudden I'm 35, I got 2 kids, and my kids are going to school, private school. 5 years is nothing to absorb, and you're not going to learn everything you're going to learn in a year. Plus, the other thing I would do a lot, I would go on a lot of realtor tours. I met all the realtors. I listened to how they made their presentations, and just being at all the different, but the tours also helped me learn a lot about what's going on in the marketplace.
That's awesome. All right, let's go on to number 2. Keep a positive attitude. I mean, I've heard you talk about before, you were a college baseball player. Right. Did you make it in the minors?
I did not.
Almost though?
I had an offer to go if I wanted to go, but I figured after 4 years of them watching me, if it wasn't solid, it was time to give it up. So then I went to old man softball league, which was hard to do.
Awesome. But anyway, the thing about baseball, a baseball player gets up to bat. If somebody hits 7 out of 10 at the plate, I mean that's never been done before. 4 out of 10 is Hall of Fame, right? Right. So you often talk about keep a positive attitude. I don't want to put your words in your mouth, but talk about that.
Well, you're going to fail. I mean, there's so much failure because as I said, I'll do 130, 140 listing appointments. I want every one of them. I don't like losing listing, but sometimes people use you. They have no intentions of hiring you. They want to hear what you have to say. They already have a family, friend, or relative. But you're going to lose listings. You're going to lose potential sales, what have you. You're going to fail 7 out of 10 times. It's one thing my mentor taught me, but So 30% is still a positive. It's still, as I said, if it was baseball, it's good stats. You're not going to win all of them. I mean, it's very easy to get down when you lose a listing, when you lose a sale. But I'm a fighter, and I'm going, you know what? I bounce back up. It's a lot easier said than done.
Right.
For me, doing that, I do cardio every day because it kind of breaks out my bad cells. And I get up early in the morning, I ride that bike, I work out. That kind of helps me relieve. But you're angry and you don't want to lose a listing, especially if it's a family friend. And that's why I said, when I learned the hard way in that 50% of co-listing, because I thought, hey, I knew this person, they were a member of my club, they're going to hire me. And at the end of the day, I went against a hotshot who far more experienced, and I lost. And I said, I'm never going to allow that to happen.
If you would have
again.
gone in with the co-listing,
my ego took over.
Yeah,
my ego took over, which is easy to do.
Awesome.
That male ego can be dangerous sometimes.
And every now and then, if that family member, or those people that you do lose, back to the fear of failure, right? So every now and then they come back because they went with that person and they didn't get results.
It does happen. It's funny. It happens, and sometimes they call you and go, I wish I would have picked you, and I said I did too, but it hasn't sold. I'm going, yes, okay, I'll forgive you. I forgive you. You have to have a short memory because you can't take it personal. I was mad then. I did not call them. I did not send any bad emails, which I wanted to do. So I didn't. I was holding back. It was hard to do, but it came back, and some of them you get back, second time, which is great.
But that's what helps keep you motivated.
Absolutely,
thinking of those positive things. All right, too. All right, so let's talk about point number 3: focusing on listings.
Right.
Why should someone be a listing agent versus just being, a buyer's agent, or even sometimes maybe? Why should someone focus and try to do more listings?
I think in a perfect world, and it doesn't always happen that way, the most successful agents out there are listing agents. Right. Buyers take a lot of time, and when I first started, that's what I was. I was a buyer's agent, and I knew the times that I wasted, but you got to pay your dues, you got to go out there. So as a listing agent, you and I are talking, hopefully somebody's showing one of my listings, and you get, for me as a listing agent, I'm lucky enough that I specialize in a particular 14-mile, square mile area. Now, it doesn't happen all the time, and it didn't happen overnight. Trust me, it took me 10, 12 years because there was a lot of experienced agents where I live in my area that.
But that was also intentional. You focused on that. You said, I live here, I want to own it.
Right. And I looked at these agents going, I know I can kick your butt. I know I can be better than them, and I've paid my dues. Not everybody felt that way, but I just felt like when you have a particular, you get hired because of all your signs. And we'll get into a little bit where I know some people pay for the internet and different ways of $500, $600 a month for different things. But signs get you more business, and more importantly, a sold sign, that listing gets you more business. And that's really been, my advertising is directed in my hood. And we'll talk about coaching kids. So I'm lucky enough, but the most successful, and you'll see that throughout the country, are listing agents that control the signs.
But then they control that area.
Correct.
They're hard. It's hard for someone to come in and unseat you. I mean, people try.
No,
it's hard because you stay up.
But it took me a long time to do it.
Right.
And it's not going to be something that somebody's going to be able to do in a year or 2 years. It's going to be 10, 12-year project.
But then that also helps you. When you go in, like you walk in the door, you have a little bit of a leg up. It helps you, I don't want to say dominate, but it helps you, right? You talk about referring out buyer leads. What do you mean you can refer out buyer leads and create leverage?
Again, I do a lot of divorce work where the courts hire me as a special master, which sounds pretty cool. And they'll give me listings, or they'll give me a listing when I say way, 30 miles away from where I live, which may not seem far to somebody in California, in Phoenix that is. And so the first few times I got these listings, I remember one was a divorced baseball player. It was $1.5 million sale. And I'm going, well, God, multiply $1.5 million times 3, it's $45,000. I'm going to do this myself. Right. And the first 2 times I got calls were like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, no shows. And I'm going, this is crazy. I mean, at the time it took me to then the traffic coming back.
Drive back, drop what you're doing.
It was crazy. So I go, you know what? I found out who in our company was the best agent. I co-listed with her, gave her 50% of the deal. I go, I'm going to be absolutely useless to you. I'm not never driving back out there again.
And she lived out there.
She lived out there,
right?
so we sold the home for like $1.3 million. It was like 40 grand in commission. I made 20, she made 20. I never had to go back. She's thrilled because now she's got all the ability to market. Say I sold a house. I don't want any credit for that area because I don't want to go back there again.
Right.
But that half credit that I did, it saved me time moving on to another deal.
Whose name was on the sign?
Hers.
Hers.
I didn't want mine. I don't want anybody to call me because I wasn't going out there.
Because you weren't going out there.
I wasn't going. No. But she made half. It was a great deal.
So, but that's the thing is that sometimes I think people maybe they won't hold too much, and in a sense it almost ends up restricting them back because then your hours were freed up to doing something else in your area. Right. Family, new agent, co-listing. We've kind of already talked about those.
Right.
Yeah.
But I want to reiterate. It is so important. Don't assume because you're the only realtor in that family that they're going to hire you. And not only the family deal, any deal you go on a listing appointment, if you're not that strong in an area, you can bet, and maybe I'm getting in to see you because you know me, but just know there's other agents in other areas where I specialize that are very, very good. You got to level that playing field and get somebody that's also strong where they can't say no. Maybe they like you, but now you got a great agent that's every bit as good as the top agent in that area. And more times than not, you get the listing.
Right. But I also, back to the co-listing part here, I know your heart, and I know that sometimes you, like with co-listing, there's a little bit of community service there, a little bit. You're also trying to help that agent. And you're right. doing it, and yes, it's good for you, but in a way, you enjoy helping other agents get better. Well, so agents shouldn't be afraid of.
No, you're right, and we do get a lot of newer agents that, especially when I do my class, that are brand new, that they know they need me or need somebody to help them get the listing, not necessarily a family member, and I love it because and they'll say to me, well, how about you want to am I paying you a referral? I go, no, you brought me in here. We're doing a 50-50 and I'm going to make you learn how to we're going to do this together. You brought me in there. So I think it's only fair they get half, but now all of a sudden they learn like I did the hard way. They brought me in to help, and just like I brought other people, brought me in. It helps you get, again, that 50% rule goes into effect. It's better than you getting shut out.
Love it.
And it's another sign.
Yep, it is. All right, let's talk about goal setting. We got a couple more to cover. Okay, set a goal of X amount of listing appointments per month, which equals X amount of listings per month. And then I added a bullet point here about also setting a goal of X amount of phone calls, letters, events, marketing, because I know that you have to do this to get the appointments.
Correct.
But do you do this? Do you set like goals like that, like in your business? I mean, these are your bullet points, so.
Yeah, so I have to say, if my bullet points,
they're yours.
I better not.
You got them.
No, I really, I like to say, in January is sometimes a little bit slower, but over the course of the year, my goal typically is 140 to 150 listing appointments a year. So whatever that math.
140 to 150 years, so you're talking
12
10 to 15 a month, varying.
And last year I ended up selling 118 homes. It's a pretty good percentage. It's almost 80%, I think. So that's always been my goal. And again, I do it by myself. I have an awesome assistant, but I'm work 6-7 days a week. I do play golf when I can. And then the phone call, you got to do more than that. So what I'll do, even the listing appointments where people say, okay, call me back and follow up in a couple weeks. I make a notes on all my sheets when they want me to call them back, and I'll keep sending them emails. Also, obviously, I'll look to see if they haven't listed the house with anybody else, but I will call them. And you have to be persistent. What's the worst thing they can do is don't bother me anymore, but until they tell you not to bother them, I'll call them every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. And you'd be surprised how many times people will test you to see if you follow through, because a lot of agents are intimidated.
Yep.
I will follow through until they say, don't bother me anymore, we're going to call your broker because you're bothering me. I don't ever usually get that. So, I'll do letters. Letters are real important. I'll do, I'll sponsor different things in the area, the marketing, but you cannot sit there and say, okay, they haven't called me, I'm going to wait for the phone call. No. And that's what another thing I did January 1st. I'm looking at all the different, I probably have 40, 50 people that have not hired anybody yet. I'm just saying, hey guys, don't forget me. And you'd be surprised, even on January 1st, I got 9 people that said, hey, you're still in the running, or maybe I'm gonna hire some. But I still got 4 listing appointments from that follow-up on New Year's Day, and I actually have listed the homes in January.
I agree with you, though. I think that sometimes they're testing you.
Well, they are
to
testing
see
it.
who's
Sure.
calling back and who's persistent, because that's an indicator.
They're testing
of
the
what you're
wrong
gonna
person
do.
because I'm gonna be obnoxious. I mean, you know that.
But I love it.
Yeah, you
I
have
love
to be.
that. All right, let's talk about marketing. Be in control of yourself, and talk about guerrilla marketing. So, yeah, I've often heard you say, invest in yourself.
Right.
Talk about that a little.
When I started the Elite Group, which was about 8 years ago, and the previous company I came from had a huge presence, one of our local magazines, probably 40 agents from that company. And we, as HomeSmart, we had not really started, the group yet. So I said, guys, let's do what this other company does. And I actually had 40 agents from our group that said, hey, a full page was like $780, small pictures, $130. I actually had 40 agents the first month. By the third month, we were down to 4 agents. And everybody said, well, nobody's calling me. And my point to people, and I said in the beginning, this is a 12-month marketing deal. Put aside X amount of dollars. Even like the big boys that you see on TV, that you say, why do they advertise? Because there's always a competitor there. When you stop advertising, people like me that are 12 months out of the year advertising, whatever it is I do, are going to kick your butt. So you've got to be consistent. When you stop is when somebody like me is going to pick up the slack. You cannot stop once you start. Even if it's postcards or whatever it is that you do, you got to be consistent.
But that's where, getting back, sometimes that's short term because you'll get the call.
Correct.
But a lot of times it's long term.
Absolutely.
But it's long term, but it is also what builds that solid foundation.
Absolutely.
Because again, it's that repetitive, and we call that frequency in marketing. Right. The frequency is what builds awareness, which awareness is what builds name recognition, top of
right.
mind.
And again, going back to what I said earlier, is that it's getting your name out there.
Yeah.
And when you stop getting your name, people go out, again, what I said, people don't know I'm in real estate now. Well, if you keep sending stuff out, they're going to know, and they're going, wow, I like this aggressiveness. People appreciate aggressiveness. As much as people may be intimidated to do that, you'd be surprised where sellers want somebody that's always going to be in touch with them, that they know that are going to market their house.
Totally. And I got to tell one quick story to the audience real quick. One time we were doing a session with Bobby, and it was kind of like, everybody went from group to group, and they went to who they wanted to learn from, and everybody came to Bobby, and Bobby's like, okay, how many of you have a marketing budget? And like nobody raised their hand. He's like, well, how many have you spend $5,000 a month? How many of you spend $3,000?
It was crazy.
And then it got down to $300, and like 2 people raised their hand. $100 a month?
Yeah.
And it was like everybody was sitting there wanting to be you, but they weren't willing to put together a budget, no matter how small, 100, 300, 500. And I know from you and a lot of top agents, I mean, sometimes I don't want to share any confidences, but I know some agents, they spend $10,000 a month, but they're making over, 1.4 million or whatever a year in gross commissions, 10%.
Right.
That's 1.2, 10%.
Yeah, don't let it be intimidating, but again, we can talk about different ways that are not that expensive, but whatever it is, you got to be consistent, and you cannot afford to stop 1 month. 1 month, all of a sudden people forget you. It's just, that's the way it works.
That's exactly. But set aside a budget. You don't have to spend $10,000 a month, but you do need to spend something.
Yeah,
but you need to spend something.
Yeah, that's a crazy number, but personally, I spend about $5,000 or $6,000 a month, and you can also get different like vendors, title companies, legally to maybe help you with your advertising, along with a proportionate share.
Right.
So maybe that's another way to kind of help offset it. But again, I think the big key is consistent.
But you've also worked up to that.
Absolutely.
You didn't spend that your first 3 months into the business.
I would have been broke. No,
exactly,
I did not.
So, set some sort of a budget and work your way up every year. Guerrilla marketing. Okay, so letters, handwritten notes. You've already talked about that. You still do that to this day, though, right?
I do emails now. I don't do letters now because people can't read my writing. But I do. But actually, what I'll do is sometimes if I see somebody that I heard that maybe they're going to be listing their house, I'll have a type letter because, again, I'm not, handwriting's bad. But absolutely, people like personalized deals, not just to occupant.
But you'll hand sign them.
I'll hand sign them, absolutely.
Yep,
absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
And newsletters, you consistently
the newsletters,
do your newsletter?
I do, and actually now I do our local newspaper. The newsletters are very, very important just to keep your name in front of everybody. And then
I think you're unique though with those newsletters. Sometimes you partner with some of the local businesses, like you'll go to a Chinese food or pizza or something, and you'll partner with tell everybody about.
Well,
what you
and
do.
one of the places I do, like I do an article in our local paper, in our regional paper, and I do an article, besides my normal ads, I do like an advertorial. I'll write an article every month, which is the hardest thing I've ever done because I'm not a writer. And as a matter of fact, my wife one month corrected about 90% of what I wrote in there. And I go, you know what, this is the way I speak. But it's personally, the article, what I write actually talks about the area. And I also include local businesses in there because they, in tune, a lot of them will allow me to put my sports magnets in their stores. And they appreciate that I'm writing about them. I mean, it's got to be give and take. If you're going to ask them, hey, can I put my magnets in your stores for the sports teams? And not do anything about them, they're going to go. So it's a trade-off, but they appreciate what I do, and I appreciate they allow me to put my magnet in the stores.
So true story. So I was in at a physical therapy place one day, and right there on the countertop of a physical therapy outlet, and there's a TV up on the wall. It's like TV sponsored by Bobby Lee or provided by Bobby, and all his magnets, his sports schedules, everything there. And the unique thing for me that I want people to take away is, I think when you walk into these local businesses, you see every one of them as a marketing opportunity.
Absolutely.
And you've worked with many of them over the years where a lot of agents maybe would never think, wow, a physical therapy office could be a marketing location.
But I have them, it's funny, I have them speak at our meetings. I have them do, like before our 3-hour C class, I'll have them come in and do like a 10 or 15 minute stretch for the agents. They love it, and it's incredible.
But that's why it's partnering.
Right.
You partner
the
with
only thing
them.
I would say about the magnets in their stores, hopefully the viewers will have better luck with their sports teams than we're having, because I've had our magnets our teams haven't done real well, so I still have a lot of my magnets left over. But you have to, get them involved in your meetings that you have, and they love it because it's free press for them, and they're getting a captive audience they wouldn't have gotten before.
I love it. All right, so we got about 30 minutes left here. Let's go. 7. All right, marketing vehicles you utilize. Long list here.
Correct.
I'm just going to read through them, but then you highlight which ones. You got internet, Zillow, local papers, magazines, signage, open house signs, postcards, magnets, bus stops, PR firms, local Little League teams, professional flyers, the Cromford Report, which is stats and data by Arizona State. That's what we do locally. I know nationally there's Keeping Current Matters is a great newsletter. Realtor tours, networking and events. So lots of venues right here, or avenues. What do you want people to take away?
Let's start, and again, we don't have to do all of them, but the internet, Zillow, I think people have to understand. I know some agents buy zip codes. Zillow, I'm just going to use them as a name, incredible marketing company. They sell zip codes. I happen to live in A5020. If you look at my zip code, these agents are paying $500-600 a month, even more, to be the preferred lender or preferred agent in that zip code. I look at them going, there's 30 agents in my zip code. I don't know any of them. None of them live in the area, but they buy that zip code. And I go back and saying, you get hired because you have signage, you market in your area. Buying zip codes may work for a few people. I wouldn't recommend that. Problem about some of the internet sites like a Zillow, like when I mentioned earlier how I do divorces, and I had one scenario where the court allows me to sign for one of the spouses who refused to leave the house. She had 2 kids. At closing, I got to sign for her. She got her revenge on me by writing a horrible review saying I threw her out in the street. So I go to Zillow, I go, hey, you've got a bad write-up here. Is there any way that this was just a hostile person? They go, no. They said, you need to find like 18, 19 people to say something good about you, which isn't easy always for me. but I compare it to like a restaurant. If you go and see 18 people say it's the best steak ever had, one person said they had food poison, it's going to hurt you. So just know when you have a profile on these internet sites, you're fair game. It could be a competitor saying something bad about you. That's the only thing I'm worried about that. Local papers and magazines, I advertise in our local paper. There's some great magazines out there. Once people see that you're advertising, everybody wants to come to you. But if it's a magazine that goes all over the valley and I'm focusing on a particular area, that's not going to work. The other thing about local paper, because I advertise in the North Central area, other papers, if I was to say get a listing outside of my area, you're writing a little ad when somebody else like has a presence I have in North Central, your little ad is going to be lost in there. Right. Open house signs and signage, that to me is real important. Yep. I always put a sold sign on a house 10 minutes after I sell. People go, well, you're losing out potential calls, that, and you got 15 days of due diligence. I understand that, but to me, that sold sign right then and there carries more weight to get more listings than maybe 90% of the calls I get that you go through the whole thing about the house and go, oh, it's 200,000 too high. I'd rather have that sold sign and that.
And that is one thing I've heard you talk about, and I think it's very unique to you. That sold sign immediately, you have credibility, and oftentimes people are like, wow, that sold fast.
Right.
That was
Hopefully it's so fast. Hopefully it didn't
totally.
take if it took 6 months. And the open house signs, but I also, open house signs, sometimes people say, can I borrow your sign? If you do an open house, you want your name on that sign so people know.
Right.
Postcards to me are a real big deal. We'll kind of talk fast on that. I do, every other month, I'll do an oversized postcard. The first part of the month, I'll show homes that I've sold that are maybe under 500,000 by square footage. And then I'll do a second one that later on that month, that's a luxury deal where the high-end homes. I'll tell people in my class, don't categorize yourself as a luxury agent, a high-rise agent.
That's 3 more points away.
Okay, yeah,
all right,
yeah.
Well,
okay, it's okay, sorry, okay. But the postcards really are very inexpensive.
Right.
I will do sometimes,
Just listed,
1,500 just sold. But mostly it's like, here's homes that I've sold in your area that you may not have known I sold. And you'd be surprised, it's just another way. And with bulk mail, you can get it done very cheaply.
So do you do just listed, just sold, and find out how much your home is worth?
I particularly don't do just listed, just sold. I do ones that I've sold. To me, that carries more weight. But if I'm a new agent, absolutely, I'm going to do just listed, just sold. In a gated community, sometimes people think, well, why should I send cards? Because they all know it. Well, some of the people in that gated community may live out of state, and you could market them. So, but those are really, really good positive deals.
So do you do find out how much your home is worth?
I will do that sometimes where I'll say, here's, I have like, say there's room for just 6 homes on the card, and I'll say your home here, which basically saying this could be your home on the card. And that sometimes catches people's eyes. So when I go in their house on appointment, they have that postcard there. And again, you've got to be consistent. It can be every other month, but if you stop it,
well, because the subtle difference there was too, like you're just sold, it has 6 homes on it, right?
Right.
Just sold and all 6 homes, and then at the bottom you've got to find out how much your home is worth, so you're getting all of it.
I want to get in to the people on a listing appointment. These are just different ways to get me in there.
Right. Talk about Little League teams. You've done a lot with community.
Yeah, to me that's a real big deal, and it's so inexpensive. So I sponsor our local teams. They have flag football, they have volleyball. And especially during baseball and softball season, it lasts a bit longer. You got your sign on the fence. You got your name on the back of a jersey. It's just huge, and it's so inexpensive. I usually do 2 teams. It lets people know that you're staying in your area. And trust me, even though I don't have kids little, mine are 29, 27, I still sponsor 2 teams in every sport in that area. That's because it gets your name out there.
Love it. Back to magnets real quick. You don't only do pro teams though with magnets. You also do high schools?
No, I don't do I did high schools at one time. The magnets though, they can't typically have the professional name because of copyright, but on the magnet they also have the college teams. If you have like we have 3 college teams in Arizona. So it's got the college teams in the bottom and the pro team on top. I will mail them out to my sphere. I'll have it in different stores. And again, for you guys out there, hope your teams are successful. So
exactly.
You want to go through them.
Cromford Report, stats. Stats are something that you talk about a lot.
It's real important because when you go on an appointment, the more third-party endorsements you have saying, yes, this is what I feel the market is worth, but when you have a company that this is what they do for a living, supports what you say, especially in the luxury, if I'm struggling selling a high-end home, this report says in this particular area, the market's slower here. It helps you hopefully buy some more time with.
But you'll bring those stats into your marketing.
Absolutely,
I will. Your newsletters and your content.
Will, yeah.
Love it. All right, realtor tours.
I think
you started a realtor tour.
Yeah, I did, and I think the realtor tour is so important. I find a lot of the newer agents don't want to do that as much as when I first started. You're meeting all your competitors. But I would watch from them, I'd learn from them, and you'd be surprised at the end of the day, when you get offers, and if you're lucky enough to get 2 offers, if you know that realtor, you can't tell your seller, hey, I want to work with that realtor, but you can say, I've done 2 deals with him or her, never done one with this person. It does weigh a lot, but the most important thing about the realtor tours, you're learning the values, you're learning the comps, because you can always look on beautiful pictures, but when you see the house personally, it makes you, instead of all the realtor BS that you see on the listing, it helps you understand the market. So when you go on a listing appointment, people go, have you seen the house? No. Well, how can you be my agent if you haven't seen your competition? I don't give them no. I say, I've seen all the houses in the area.
But I think it's an action item for some of you out there. You know, Bobby would go on some of the realtor tours, but they still weren't exactly what he wanted. They weren't as often as he wanted. So he said, I'm going to start my own realtor tour.
Correct.
And you did, right?
I did.
And in a way, he'll never say this, but I've heard it referred to in his area oftentimes as the Bobby Lee Home Tour. So, I mean, there is the upside to doing that. So it's an idea. If you want to, you can start a home tour in your area.
Absolutely,
right?
and you should. It's
Right.
real important because again, it helps you learn all the inventory and visually remember the houses versus just what it says in the listing.
But you've also created great relationships with a lot of the agents also with our company and with others
There's no
that
question.
you do business with all the time anyway.
It helps, you know, and your competitors, is not, you don't have to love your other realtor, but as long as you know them, then I'll tell you what the big key is. They answer the phone when I call, I answer the phone when they call. And that's the thing that they know we can each rely on it. We're competitors, there's a feistiness in there, but at the end of the day, we all want to sell our own listings and I want their buyers, so you have to have a good working relationship with other realtors.
Awesome. All right, so let's talk 8, 9, and 10 real quick. Sold signs.
Yeah, it's funny that I'll see sometimes, we talked about, as soon as I sell the house, I have a sold sign. Don't get a teeny one. Get the biggest legal sign that you can put in your neighborhood and put it on top of the sign. And again, you'd be surprised that day, the timing, somebody's gonna be driving through, they see that sold sign, they may be on the verge of trying to hire a realtor. The more sold signs you have in a neighborhood, especially ones that are harder to sell, they're going, hey, maybe I got lucky, but at the end of the day, that sold sign gets me more listings.
And you believe in it so much. If you have a corner lot, what are you doing?
I'm putting 2 signs in the corner. It may not make the surrounding neighbors happy, but if you got 2 corners, the more signs you have, the more, especially you got traffic going from different directions. That's how you market yourself. I mean, we're all about marketing ourselves. It's a cheap way to market yourself for $60.
Right. Now, I cut you off earlier talking about being a luxury agent, and you're starting to lead to pigeonholing.
Right.
Talk about that a little bit. I mean,
you know, I just think people sometimes, the ego is, I am a luxury agent. But just in the Phoenix market, I think we use $1 million as a luxury. It used to be $750. But I don't want to be I want to be an agent. And if you say that, I remember one agent when I was at this previous company, her ad said, I sell condos to castles. To me, that says it all, which means you'll sell your $100,000 house, and to me, that's what being an agent does. In certain areas of Phoenix area, luxury, everything's over $1 million. You can get away with that. In the area that I'm in, we have homes that are $100,000, $200,000, $5 million. So I just say I'm an agent, and that's why when I do my cards every month in my area, I'll show some luxury, some not, but I don't call myself a luxury agent, because by doing that, if somebody has a $200,000 or $300,000 house, which could be $6,000 or $8,000 or $9,000 in commission, they're going to go, I'm intimidated to hire you because all you sell are high-end homes. I'm going, no, I'll take anything, and that's what you have to have that.
Well, you market yourself as, okay, I'm an elite agent, I'm an expert agent, and at any level, right?
Take it all.
And
I'll take it all. Because again, here's what I find out. When you get your ego involved, saying, I don't want to take that $200,000 sale, guess what? That $200,000, and I've seen it happen, now are buying $1 million houses. And they remember that you took their house. Of course I take, because that's $6,000 that helps me pay for my kids and food and magnets and everything else. So there's nothing that I wouldn't take, any listing I wouldn't take.
Right. Partners, title, lenders,
very, very
marketing
important.
department.
Very, very important. It helps, like when you're doing, we have specific title companies and lenders that I like working with, because that deals get done. And again, it's having mobile phone numbers, of being able to call lenders, say, hey, tell me what's going on here, if there's any hiccups going on. When you have somebody that you can't communicate with, which is so frustrating to me, that you're going to have bumps in the road. I need to know in advance, and when you're dealing with sometimes with a title company and a lender, that if I'm a listing agent that a buyer picked out, they're not going to call you. They're supposed to be a non-interested third party. They're not always, but if it's your own person that you try to refer out, you'd be surprised. They know that they will pick up the phone and tell me what's wrong. Tell me what's going great. If it's going wrong, how can I cure it? Everything's not always going to be smooth, but they also help you with marketing. And I watch our meetings that we have, our elite meeting, and I'll get 200, 250 people every month to our meetings. I don't charge the agents to come in there. I have great speakers. the room is paid for, the food. So the agents are getting they're getting to eat for free. But the sponsors aren't doing this because they like you. They're doing it because they want your business, and it's a win-win for everybody. They make you, they feed you, they have the room for you, but they also expect
show them some of the love back.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And help them, and then create those relationships. They'll help you
huge,
out. You help them out.
And they'll help you with flyers.
Yeah.
Well, my title company that I use helps me with my flyers. Another title company that I use, Lender, they help me with my postcards. So it helps you save some money, but they're not going to do it if you don't use them.
Right.
I mean, that's the problem.
Exactly.
Question on number 8. What point in the process do you put the sold sign up, and what does that look like?
So
instantaneously.
Yeah. So one of the questions we got about from you guys, appreciate it. The sold sign goes up. Honest to God, if it's 10 minutes after it's sold. I mean, I'll put it out at midnight. I'll put it out at 2 o'clock in the morning. You just never know. Even if somebody's coming from the bar at 2 o'clock in the morning, they see that sold sign, and
The question was, how fast do you put a sign
out?
out?
I put it up as soon as the ink is dried. As soon as I got the DocuSign back, it goes up that night. I mean, or early in the morning. I mean, because that hour you wait, or the 2 hour, or the next day that you wait, you could have that person.
But then the question was, what comes along with it? I've heard you talk before where, you've had something that's fallen out.
Right.
And you took the sold sign back down.
Right.
And then you sold it again, and somebody thinks you sold twice.
Yeah, I would tell you, so in our area in Phoenix, you have a lot of fix and flips.
Right.
And I'm lucky that I haven't had too many that fail, but you're going to have failures. With the fix and flips, those guys, when they tie your house up, they're hanging on to it for 9 days, trying to flip to somebody else. I did have one house that I ended up having to take the sold sign down 5 times and put it back up. You get kind of sheepish the last time, but more times than not, that sold sign gets me more sales. I do it right away. Don't wait. I don't wait for the 15-day inspection period just because it gets me more business.
Did we answer that?
Thank you,
Adam. Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
All right. Okay. Pricing discussions. It's a big one.
It is a big one.
Overpriced listings. Somebody, to take them or not to take them.
Right.
Talk about that.
I always, it's interesting. So when I go on a listing appointment, I will always look at the internet sites, Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, whatever it may be. We have a local install called Street Scout. What are they pricing the house that I'm going on? Not that I believe that, but I do it because I know when I go on the listing appointment with my seller, they've been looking at that because that's all they have access to. They don't have access to multiple listing. So you have to be prepared with a discussion. So that to me is very important. Plus I have comps. I'm going to have comps that are so important to say, here's what your house is. I know the internet site says this, but here's the comps, and I've been to all of them. So I will tend to, sometimes it may come down to getting the listing by knowing that your seller wants to try this price. I'm willing to try it, and then here's what I usually do. Let's just say, let's use 500,000 as the barometer. I know it's not worth more than 500,000, but there's always room to negotiate. And my seller goes, can we try 550? Way back when, I would say no, I've lost a listing, guess what? They end up selling it. They got the price I thought, but I didn't get any fees. So I don't mind trying a higher number, but what I'll tell the seller is, let's have a real estate tour come through. Let's have, maybe some open houses. Feedback right away. And the question is, well, how soon should I reduce the price? Well, if we've had a bunch of showings in the initial start, why wait? I mean, because the more days, you don't want to have a home sitting on the market too many days, which really can make it difficult. I always tell people it's really critical the first 20, 30 days, because once it gets over 30, it's not necessarily stale, but the days on market can start working against you, advantage seller. So I don't mind trying it, and hopefully the seller will realize through persuasion and everything I said I was going to do that we need to come down right away. And I've dropped prices 4 days after I got the listing because I had a tour. We had 40 of the realtor experts go in there and pretty much said what I said, but now I got a third-party agent saying, here's what should be listed, here's why it was too high. And sometimes, the seller goes, it's too soon. Okay, but more times than not, depending on their motivation, they'll listen to you.
Right. That's good advice. Great advice. All right. Number 12, times to consider a co-listing agent. I know we've kind of talked about this, but I mean, bullet points here about you're outside your area of expertise, you're new, you lack confidence.
Let me talk about the new thing. Again, you're a brand new agent, and as I said earlier, you know these guys want to hire you, but you don't have the experience, bring me on. I mean, because you don't want to lose it. And truthfully, if you're a brand new agent, you don't have a clue to what you're doing. I don't care if you learned all this stuff in real estate school, it doesn't teach you the practical. You know, if you screw up, there's lawyers out there.
Right.
You want to have a professional, like I did with Mark. I stayed with Mark for 5 years till I felt like I knew it all. So when you're new, you can learn from me like I learned from other agents, but we got the listing together. You're going to be 50% with me. I'm not going to pay a referral fee. We're 50%. And that helps you learn what I do, but also because of you, I got the listing.
Well, and I think one thing I've learned from you is confidence as well.
Right.
Okay, confidence in your knowledge and your stats, but also when you co-listed, you built confidence in doing those co-listed deals.
Well, and I want the agent to feel important.
And that's what I mean.
I do, because I remember when
confidence
Mark
by
didn't
doing
always
that.
look at me when I first started with him. I said, look, this is a great agent. This is somebody that's going to be awesome. Obviously, he or she are new, but let's bring in there. And then when you lack confidence, that doesn't always necessarily have to be a new agent. It could be you don't sell in that area. It could be a luxury house that you've never done luxury. It could be a high rise. So again, bring somebody on that will help you. And I'm happy, again, to pay 50% referral. I never would have had that otherwise. I'll do all the marketing pretty much. I'll do all the advertising. But at the end of the day, that's another sign. And different geographic areas we talked about, I'm not going to go 40 miles outside of my area just because it's just too far. I don't know it. The thing I bring in my area, I know all the schools, I know all the shopping centers, I know all the people who own the homes. That is so important. If I go to a foreign area, I don't know anybody. I'm just putting a sign up there, and then when they call you to show their house, you're going, oh my God, it's 4 o'clock. Can we do it tomorrow? So I'm not doing the seller justice there.
Yeah, I got it. All right, 13 and 14.
Okay.
All right, now you got the listing. Now what?
You have to hire professional photography. You know, and it's funny that I'll see sometimes people will use their phones to shoot pictures. You know, I'm a technology idiot. I don't even know how to use my camera on my phone except for my dogs. But you got to hire a professional photographer for a couple reasons. One is it helps that listing look good and that seller's happy. But when you realize that when you take these pictures and flyers, they go on the internet. Prospective sellers or buyers are going to go, look at the pictures this person did. I like what they did. So maybe they cost you $120, $130. That's cheap to get you another person.
And you do that. I've seen you invest. You use great photographers.
Well, and sometimes you have to do aerials, you know, the drones, whatever. But what I would tell you is don't make promises you can't keep. That is the most inexpensive part of your marketing that you have to have, because you're not only selling, as I said, you're selling that house, but notice that Todd is getting ready to list his house. I love the pictures, the photography Bobby did. I'm going to hire Bobby to do my house, especially if it sells. So the flyers are real important to have. Sometimes people will have like 5-page flyers, every little room, what they have in there. To me, that's a turnoff, because if you're taking somebody out that's looking at 10 houses, especially from out of town, they don't want to look through 5 pages. I've always just do a really nice 1-page color, key bullet points, and that helps the seller remember what the house looked like. They're not going to look through 5 pages. This room has a toilet, it's got a sink, it's got green carpeting. It's too much information there.
You did catch my eye this weekend on Facebook. It was the aerial of the compound.
I saw
that. That was a good one. All right, sign up and signage immediately.
Yeah, immediately. And again, sometimes I would. It's so important. And have good looking signs. In our area, everybody has a standard sign. Do something that's unique, that sets your brand off. Like we have the lighted signs at HomeSmart, which is incredible. Right. But there's other nice signs that we can do that's not like every other agent. So I want to have a unique sign for me that makes me stand out. That's obviously recommended by our company. That's not the sign everybody else does.
All right, open houses. How many open houses do you still do open houses? Do you believe in open houses?
I believe in them. We have about 15 open houses a week that my daughter helps me with that part. So if new agents call and say, I'm looking for open houses, I will have my daughter help out. She'll actually have a sign-up sheet through the internet, which of course you know I don't know how to do that. Right. But yeah, it's really important but what people have to understand on the open houses, first of all, They got to stay awake, unlike me, my first open house. But most importantly, if you're doing an open house, you've got to know the comps in the area. You can't just say, I'm doing an open house in this area. I don't know anything about it, because people are going to set you up going, tell me about the area, tell me about who lives here. That's why you've got to do your homework, having the stats. I will go through, when I do, I make sure the agents that are doing my open houses, I want them to know everything about the house and the area, because again, not only, probably let's say 90% of the time, you're not necessarily going to sell that open house, but somebody may like that your knowledge of the area, they'll hire you to list their house.
But the thing that I see about you is that, so on a weekend coming up, you've got on social media, open house, open house, open house, and you've got newsletters and postcards
Absolutely.
and open house, and
but know that I don't know how to do that. I have a great assistant that does that for me. So that helps to surround yourself with good people.
Right.
You can't do it all, but yes, my assistant does that, because I don't even know my passwords. But I will tell you, she puts all that on, and it's free. It gets you out there. People will say, I saw this on social media. I'm coming to the house. That's incredible to be able to do that.
All right, so 15 and 16, real quick.
Okay.
Last 2 minutes or 3 minutes here. The active listing.
I would say nobody's going to outwork me, because I'm going to do what I can to get it done. I'm marketing as possibly as I can. I mentioned earlier, let me borrow your phone for a second.
Yep.
I will tell people in my class, answer your phone. It's amazing how many times agents do not answer their phone. A lot of times it's because maybe a seller's pissed off at them, which happens sometimes.
Right.
But you can diffuse, and that's usually the broker says the number one issue with agents they get calls on is an answer your phone, because not only can it be, it could be, you'll be surprised when buyers will call me and go, oh my God, I didn't expect you to answer your phone. Come over, I want you to come over next week. They will tell me, you're the first person that's answered your phone. I've called 10 agents. That's an advantage I have, or I'll answer it right away. And it's just, I'm telling you, it gets you business, and it's crazy not to answer your phone. It's, sometimes I know for some people, this is a part-time job. If you have an ability to make it full-time, then I'd say take that risk. I did. To me, I have an assistant with me for 19 years. I know some people will hire their assistants who also start to compete with them. You have to pay an assistant, that's good. So when you go out of town, which you have to have a life, or if I want to play golf on the weekend, you have to have somebody that's going to cover you, that you know that you're not skipping a beat, that's going to answer your phone for you, that knows all your listings. Don't just have an assistant that just a body. You want somebody that can answer. If somebody calls you, what's that house I have over on 7th Street? They'll be able to answer. Would you not like to give it to somebody else? I mean, again, that's referring out to somebody. There's a lot of things I don't like to do, but the whole technology part, which I'm very weak in, I have somebody that's very strong in it. So that makes me look good.
Well, I would say 3 years ago, you put an investment in on social media online, and
Absolutely.
really that was something you didn't like to do, but you took action there. And I would say in 3 years, I've seen tremendous results.
I didn't even know what a podcast was 3 years ago. So, or
a webinar.
Yeah, webinar. What's a webinar? Now I know. Now I'm a veteran.
You're a
now
guest.
I'm
I love
a veteran.
it.
Okay.
I love it.
And best source of new business. So, again, try to keep in contact with your old clients. I know, and again, I'm not the strongest at doing that. I said before, people are not very loyal. But if you have the ability in a database, which some people are so much better than me, is keep in contact with them. It's funny. One simple thing: the bank that near my house. I know a lot of people want to do direct deposits for their checks. I want to personally go in my neighborhood bank. You'd be surprised how many people you run into that see you, even in a grocery store, and I'll go in there and go, you know what, I love, and I'll be in my sweatsuit half the time, but all of a sudden it rekindles a friendship. Lululemon. This is Lululemon, by the way. And my pants. But you'd be surprised. I want to be the more contact you can be with people, that the better you are. And the bank is such a simple way to run into people that, and I'll pretend like I'll open the door for them, welcome to the bank, and it just helps you. It helps you.
There you go. No more drive-through. Go to the bank. No electronic.
Exactly.
Go to the bank. Actually meet people. Talk to people. No DoorDash.
Even if you don't like them, let them think you like them. Yeah. So
go get it. I love it. I love it. All right, number 16.
I would say you can have. It goes back to what I said earlier about you're going to have some failure. You're going to have your tough times. It can be a volatile business, especially when you're newer. You go, did I make a mistake getting into real estate? Right. Nothing it's hard work. Again, surround yourself with people that are smarter. Even today, I have a mentor who I will call, even when I'm down, I'll call him and say, what do you think? You have to have somebody that you can call and say, somebody just kicked me in the butt in this deal. What do I do? And even if I know the answer, I want to hear from somebody else. But you can't get down. And that's why I said I'll go.
Well, believe you're the best and make it.
You have
so
to believe you're the best. Yeah, you have to
when
be.
you walk in the door.
You have to be. I mean,
Right.
you have to have that confidence, and your clients can see that you believe in what you're doing. So, that helps the confidence there. And it's
Right.
not easy, but time is what you have to have on your side.
Love it. All right, parting thoughts. Winning listings. You've shared a lot. This has
Okay.
been phenomenal, by the
Thank
way.
you.
I hope you've all enjoyed it.
I think hard work. I mean, I think you have to realize, again, I've been doing this 27 years. My first 5 years, I was a mentor with somebody. I mean, I had a mentor. The next 5 years, now I'm trying to rebrand myself as working by myself. And it was challenging because you were relying on the crutch of somebody who was a veteran. Now you're going, oh my gosh, I'm now doing this on myself. Am I capable? When you start getting a few listings here and there on your own, you get confidence. That's why I still wasn't hesitant about bringing in a co-lister even after I went off on my own, because I just I felt like I was ready, but I wasn't ready. And it could take 10 years. I mean, this is not something it's going to happen overnight. I'm still learning after 27 years. I love it when people come to me for questions. I learn from them. I learn from other people. But I also have somebody in my back pocket that I can call at any time.
But back to that at the beginning, we talked about fast and quick and
Right.
long term, and I just think of you every January.
Right.
And you're
January
working.
1st.
You're dialing.
I
You're
am
calling,
emailing.
you're texting,
at 12:01.
social media.
I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning on New Year's Day.
And you're working
The football
open
games
houses.
haven't started. We're emailing everybody.
Right.
Yep.
So have that mindset, and you just go to work right away, and you can do it. Bobby, thank you so much for
Thanks,
being
guys.
here
Appreciate
today.
it.
This is great.
Hope
Let's talk
everyone-
about this week's winner real quick. This week's lighted sign winner is
Me.
you,
Okay.
Bobby. All right. Oh, maybe I'll give you one for being a guest on the show here today. But Cynthia Beichler out of Chicago. Bill Fleming's office, Home Smart Connect. I think it's the Edison Park office, I think is that one. So Cynthia, you'll be hearing from us. Thank you all for being here today. Bobby, thank you.
My pleasure.
For
Thank
being
you.
here today on the webinar. Let's all go win some listings. Put these 16 things in action for you. And we hope you all just grow your business, serve your customers by winning listings. Bobby,
Call me.
thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, take care. What's your email address?
That's Bob Lieb, Lieb, at AOL.com.
There we go.
There's still one of us out there have
Lieb
AOL.
At AOL.com.
Yeah.
Give him an email. All right, take care, everyone. Thank you.